of their skin color. I don't know why this is so difficult. I mean, you have to go through an extraordinary amount of school. You almost have to have a PhD to not be able to see this.
You say that there can be prejudice, but not discrimination. What do you mean?
So, well, I would separate prejudice from racism as being two different things.
She's about to open the can on him.
These policies have never helped Black Americans. It's just basically policies that are put in place to make people feel good, right? I feel like I'm doing something when in fact I'm actually creating harm.
But you're making...
What is she talking about? What policies is she referring to? Is she referring to the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act? What is she talking about?
The assumption that Black students are academically inferior, and they're not.
No,
they're
you
some
are
of our
actually.
most brilliant students
that's
that we
the
have.
basic. No.
It's the exact opposite. He's the one who's doing that. Candace is claiming, don't treat them any differently based upon the color of their skin.
That you are making the assumption that they are inferior.
You just said that they don't belong there.
Policies. I'm talking about the students that are based on the policies that you are defending right now, saying that we should have these policies that let them into these universities, not based on their skill set, but based on the color of their skin. So you are assuming that they are inferior.
He's never heard someone like this challenge him before. He just seems to be caught off guard by it.
John, what do you think about this?
I mean, look, okay, so they're talking about university admissions, right? The fact is, nobody is being let into Harvard based purely on their race. That's just not happening. It wasn't happening before. It's not happening now. Okay? Someone's background, right, which can be indirectly tied with their race, right? Black and brown people are, on average, less wealthy than white people. And Asian people. That's true. But anyway, when you consider someone's background, right? They grew up in a rough neighborhood, right? They grew up around gang violence. They grew up around this or that, all of which is a product of systemic racism, right? Or some of which is a product of systemic racism. And you overcome those challenges, those barriers, right? You have a 4.0 GPA. You are captain of the football team, right? You have all these extracurriculars, and then for whatever reason, right? Maybe you can't afford fancy SAT tutors. You score 300 points lower than the average white applicant or the average Asian applicant to Harvard. Does that mean you don't deserve to go to Harvard? What? Like, we're going to boil it all down to one number? The SAT? That's just fucking stupid. It doesn't mean that black person, that Mexican person, that, whatever person is not qualified to go to Harvard. It just means they got a lower score on a standardized test. For any variety of reasons. So what? That is one factor in a tapestry of someone's life.
Professor of Clinical Education.
I think that, each college admissions committee that comes up with policies to consider someone's racial identity or racial background is a good thing, and the constellation of competitive factors.
Constellation of competitive factors. This is an example of this flowery language that just obfuscates any argument to try and sound like there's more there than there is. It's just an optical illusion.
An optical illusion? No, it's not. What? No. There's a variety of things that Harvard admission or whoever admissions considers when they accept students. How is that obfuscating anything? What?
They're comprehensive or holistic in nature. And then we say, across all those factors, looking at these holistic in nature.
Amala.
And then we say, across all those factors.
That's Amala Epunobi. She used to be a hardcore leftist when she was cool. Now she's a fucking square.
Looking at these and taking them in tandem, is this student best prepared? Because it's not just about your intelligence, that's important. It's also about your drive, about your resilience, about your ability to overcome challenges, and that's what makes you successful.
Yeah, and note that none of that has anything to do with the color of your skin.
I just ask a question. How do you consider it?
No, but look, you have to you have to realize that like to a large degree, there have been studies done on this. Okay? SAT scores are largely influenced by your wealth. If you can afford good tutor, because the first time you take an SAT score, it's not set in stone. You can take the SAT again and increase your score. Does that mean you got smarter? Your IQ went up? No. It means you can train for the test. If you can hire like a good SAT tutor, you can, be a relatively above average and score really high on the SAT. You don't have to be a genius to score high on the SAT. Okay? And if you come from these more impoverished backgrounds, which black and brown people are disproportionately impoverished, your SAT score is likely going to be lower. It's not because you're dumb or dumber than white or Asian people. You're just poorer.
Yep.
Why are you poor? Come on, let's be real. It's systemic racism, which these guys don't believe in, but that's just reality. They talk about reality all fucking day, but they don't want to acknowledge, historic and present systemic racism.
When we're telling you factually, in effect, it is a bad thing for the black students.
What are the constellations of factors that involve them thriving or not? Is it solely due to their race?
Candace Owens is arguing the exact opposite than that. She's claiming that this should have nothing to do with race. You're the one who's claiming it has to do with race.
No, it's due to their intellectual capabilities, which is how students should be judged. And I do want to say
Is that limited to just their race?
This is the second time he's tried to do this tactic. You're the one asking people to check off a race box on their application and factoring that into your constellation of factors.
It's not limited to just their race, which is why that would be an equal policy if you allowed people to be judged based on their merit, on their merit and not based on their skin color. Yeah. It also, there's something about it that's very patronizing. You're a black person, so I assume that you can't get on this school based on your merit. I don't think Sasha and Malia Obama are people that have struggled and therefore should be allowed to get into.
Sasha and Malia are from a wealthy family, like, of course. That's not what's at issue here. It's like, on average, black and brown people are more poor, more impoverished than whites and Asians. Okay? Of course, if you disaggregate that, some groups of Asians are not actually that wealthy, but whatever, right?
To the college universities on a higher basis than white kids that have worked harder than them, especially Asian Americans, which we never discuss, and are probably the most.
No, you always discuss that. You always discuss it.
Discriminated against in this country when it comes to universities.
This guy just doesn't quite know what to do because he's actually now debating, probably for one of the first times in his life, a black woman.
We have black students at a particular school who aren't performing at.
How can you know that? How can you know that, dude? You have no proof. There's no proof of that.
That school as well. The immediate assumption that you're making is, well, maybe it's because they're not smart enough, they're not good enough, or they don't belong here. Whereas it could be about the experience that they're having at that institution. Professors who believe that they're not intelligent enough, that they don't have the capability to do the work, that they see them as criminals, deviants, dangerous, up to no good.
What evidence do you have that the professors at these institutions, which are universally liberal, are conducting themselves in this way?
Or they...
I mean, he's talking in the abstract, and maybe he has, I don't know, maybe he has direct experience. You don't know that. You don't know if he's spoken to professors or if he's spoken to students who've talked about their experience in university. You don't know that, bro. And also, colleges aren't universally liberal. Okay? Have you heard of the business college? I went there. There's a lot of right-wingers, conservatives.
Talk about them with the they statements. They're lazy. They don't care. They don't really belong here.
And if your criteria is the use of the word they, you're stretching if that's going to be your criteria.
They're only here for the financial aid.
I'm giving you actual facts.
No,
right?
I'm giving you actual facts based upon extensive
say, well, maybe they just don't feel good.
Note that he never cites any actual research here.
It almost seems like you guys refuse to accept that, Black students aren't performing well, you feel like you have to have this burden of responsibility when in fact, if you actually wanted to help, you would look at the facts, re-examine the fact that it's not helping anybody, it's not helping Black Americans to artificially place them into universities, and you'd make effective change.
Artificially, that's so bullshit.
What do you think about what we're talking about so far?
Right. I'll talk to your example that you gave about the Monopoly game and a white person being able to run the track twice over and a Black person starting after that. The solution is not to then pick up the Black person and run them around the lap 4 times. The solution is to fix the game and make that equal.
She's good. I like her. You put the
Yeah, I agree with that. Sure. Fix the game. How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you do that? Because that's a very complex issue, I mean, it's really not ultimately. Like, poverty is pretty simple. You just redistribute wealth, right? You give people health care. You give people tuition-free college. You, detach public education from property tax and federally fund it so that, poor districts don't have shitty schools. You eliminate private school, which, the Scandinavian countries have done, and they have the best public schools in the world. Okay? There are ways to fix this, but they don't want to do those things that will actually benefit, all poor people, all people, really, ultimately.
the two of them together and they become unstoppable.
Which would be a race-neutral future. We should not be looking at race when it comes to college admissions at all. And it seems that with affirmative action, we've dictated we care about Black students, we care about Hispanic students. These are the minorities who are going to benefit from this, and Asians are not, and Native Americans.
He even says, don't forget Native Americans. He has the groups checked off.
How dare you think about people who've been marginalized in this country? You piece of shit.
Like he's just checking off a grocery list. It's truly remarkable that he's actually saying this out loud.
Is it remarkable? Oh man, I care about people who have been marginalized in this country and want to talk about it. I'm a piece of shit, I guess.
But the through line is not necessarily socioeconomic status. It doesn't seem to be resources. It seems to be that these are the minority groups that we feel bad for. We don't feel bad for Asian Americans because they have a culture of high minority group socioeconomic status.
That he's actually saying this out loud.
But the through line is not necessarily socioeconomic status. It doesn't seem to be resources. It seems to be that these are the minority groups that we feel bad for. We don't feel bad for Asian Americans.
Wait, but why would they? Who's they? First of all, who's they? And secondly, why would they feel bad about Black and Hispanic students? You're saying, 20 seconds ago, you're like, it's not socioeconomic. They just feel bad about them for no reason. But they're also of lower socioeconomic status because of, the legacy of racism and slavery and Jim Crow and discrimination that have resulted in them being of lower economic status. This is who we consider an intellectual? Amala Epinobi? Come on.
It's because they have a culture of high academic standing. They have a culture of drive and of facing adversity. We look at Black students and Hispanic students and Native American students.
We are inferior,
and
that
we
is
pity them.
That's what makes my blood boil. I mean, it's just, I am not less than.
It's not that we pity them or they're inferior. All of that is a result of choices that we've made as a society, historically and in the present. Okay? There's nothing inherent about Black and brown people that makes them academically inferior, intellectually inferior, socially inferior. None of that. All of that is because of policy. And what do we have to do to rectify their lower academic achievement, lower income, wealth, political power? Through policy. Not just saying, oh, I'm going to convince people to not become single mothers, because that's worked, obviously. Like, come on, dude. This is silly. This is baby brained.
And you because you are white. I don't need you to look at me and feel bad for me because of the color of my skin. And that's effectively what you're doing.
I agree with that. Sure. Yeah.
Every time you take an application, you say, oh, well, this girl's black, so I kind of feel bad for her, so I'm going to put her at the top of a line. It's just not necessary.
Notice the headline under Candace's name, claiming race has become divisive in America. It's like, who would have thought that a conservative would be the one trying to point out how race has become divisive, and the liberals would be arguing against them, claiming, no, division isn't racism.
I believe, right, that black Americans are capable
Division isn't racist. The liberals said division isn't racism. I never heard them say that.
of performing in the same capacity as their white peers. You two don't actually believe that,
I
because
actually believe
if you
that.
support affirmative action, you are basically saying that black Americans cannot do it on their own.
No, what I'm saying is that
It's not that. This is so dumb, dude. Like, look, if you are stuck in a cycle of poverty because of systemic racism, which is real, look it up. It's not hard. Okay. I know it may seem hard to some people, but it's not as though you are inherently inferior. But when you grow up in a much more traumatic environment, yeah, you need some help. And that's okay. That's okay. And then hopefully, as time moves on, the next generation and the next generation have fewer unnecessary obstacles to overcome and need less help. That'd be great. Yeah. But we need to help people to get the ball rolling. And it's not racist to do that. It's just a recognition of reality, of the facts, that we crippled Black and Hispanic people in this country because of racism, and we need to rectify that. Why is that hard? Why is that hard to understand? It's not saying that Black and brown people are inferior. It's just recognizing that this is a racist country. Sorry to break it to you guys.
that there's a history of racism and exclusionary practices. That instead, we're reducing it all the way down just to race. And what these admissions practices are actually doing is saying, no, there's a constellation of factors that we're considering.
I think that's the third time he's dropped the constellation of factors.
I mean, apparently he has to repeat it because people don't understand. This is a difficult concept for some people.
In the holistic review of this
So
application.
remove race from the applications.
Is basically making it about race. You're saying these are the Black people, these are the white people, these are the Asian people, these are the Native American people, as you mentioned. But as one of the audience members said, what about people who are of mixed race? You know, I'm of mixed background. What am I supposed to mark on an application? Am I supposed to mark multiple boxes? And plus,
Mark
if you are
black.
painting people,
Dude, like most people are mixed race. Oh my God. This is her gotcha argument. Oh, you didn't consider mixed race people. Okay.
as an oppressor, if you're white,
That's a
and then
terrible
saying
thing to
that
tell
you're
someone to do.
oppressed,
Well, it's
Within that statement, he is admitting that these boxes are important.
the truth because you
Your
believe in
color,
affirmative action. So I said Mark Black. If you're a mixed
then-
student, I'm in an interracial relationship, so I can speak to this. I have a son that's half white and a son that's half Black and a daughter that's half white and half Black. They're going to mark Black because I know that there are people like you at the universities who will say, well, because this person is Black, I'm just going to let them in.
No, they're
That's-
going to mark Black because they're Black.
Well, they're half Black and half white. They're both, right?
How Black do you have to be Black? What if you do have one white parent? What if you have ancestry that is Black? Who gets to define these groups?
So
Dude, like, you self-ID, who cares? Who gives a shit, dude? Like, look, I'm half Mexican, half German. I present as Mexican. I identify as both, and I'm proud of being Mexican and German. And I wish that, you know, on those applications, which, I mean, I think I can mark, like, Hispanic and white. But who fucking cares? Yeah, if you want to put that you're Black and white on your application, do that. Or on what? On your census? Who cares? Who cares? The point is like, unfortunately, because racism is still a thing in this country, you know, how you present is how you're defined. And then there's some, you know, people in the middle where it's hard to tell what they are. Right? Rashida Jones, right? And from the Parks and Rec. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Not even her. But look, this is a silly topic of conversation. Who cares?
But it's true. You overlook
I'm half black and
right.
half
So
white.
you
I'm black.
overlook
That's how it works.
interracial students.
But
so what do
why?
you mean? Why are you saying they're going to mark black
socialized in our
black?
society.
So the answer is, if you can't. I mean, you can mark both. Can you mark both? I don't know if you can. What are you
Yes.
going to look?
She's making such a big deal out of it, and she doesn't even know if you can mark both. Oh my God.
At that applicant as a little bit less because they're half white? How do you guys figure that out?
How they look at it is,
What do you think? What do you think he's going to say?
again,
Holistically.
across
I
a
love that
number
word.
of different
I love a
factors.
buzzword.
How dare you? How dare you consider multiple factors when admitting a student into your university? The audacity, man.
Love me a buzzword. Holistically and racial consciousness.
Oh yeah, reverse discrimination. That's a
It's not
buzzword.
racial discrimination. It's just discrimination. It's just racism if you're judging people on the basis of their skin color. I don't know why this is so difficult. I mean, you have to go through an extraordinary amount of school. You almost have to have a PhD to not be able to see this.
We're talking about holistic admissions, and we're talking about how that, and I know you don't like that word, but that's just
Love
true.
it.
That's what it's called. Or comprehensive, you can call it that too.
This whole time, this guy still hasn't said anything.
What they're really just doing is
What do you mean? Yeah, he's explained what they're doing.
Sure.
Race can be a factor, but really it comes down to your background, okay? In a multitude of factors on your university application, and that's okay. That's okay, man. Doesn't mean that like Candace said earlier, if you're black, you're just let in. If you're just a black person on the street, someone in a Harvard mobile drives up, says, "Get in. You're going to Harvard now."
trying to open a door, and as you try to open a door just a little bit, the accusation is, well, somehow that's not fair. What's really not fair is the history of racism and segregation in this country, which pervades to today, which is the reason why we see college admissions and companies doing these things to try to create more opportunity. But even with those opportunities that are created by these,
And that's the thing, man. Look, if there was zero history of discrimination in this country based on race, religion, gender, etc., then you would have a reason to complain about this. But that's just not the reality, okay? You just have to face the facts, man. We have a history of systemic racism in this country, in the United States, and we should seek to rectify that. We gotta correct it. Do you not want to correct your mistakes? Not you personally, but your country's mistakes. Why not? It's a question you should ask yourself. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Hope you enjoy this one. Gonna go take a nap. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.